Hi guys, welcome to another video in my Photoshop Essential Skills series. Everything you need to know to get you well and truly started on your journey of discovery with Photoshop. In this video we're going to be looking at effects and styles. Just what are they and how do we use them? Now don't forget, if you're a fan of the printed page, there is a free ebook to accompany the video. Just click on the link in the More section under the video to download it. Okay, let's get started. So what are we going to learn in this video? Well, number one, I want you to learn how to select and apply an effect. Number two, we're going to see how to create and save a style using effects. Okay, let's get started. Okay, let's take a brief look at layer effects and styles. Firstly, what's the difference between them? Well, Photoshop provides a variety of effects such as shadows, glows, bevels that change the appearance of a layer's content in a non-destructive way. Now, layer effects are linked to the layer content, so if you move a layer that's got effects on, you will move the effects as well. Now, where are they? Well, if we go down to the bottom of the layers panel here, we'll see there's an FX, and if I click and hold down on that, you'll get all these things here. We've got bevel and emboss, stroke, inner shadow, inner glow. These are all effects, and these can all be applied to a layer. Now there's a little secret way that you can get at this rather than mousing down to the FX all the time, is just to the side here, just to the right hand side of the layer name, there's like a blank area and there's a secret button in there, and if you double click on it, it'll open up the styles panel for you. And here it is. This is the layer styles panel. Now you can see, I'll just put it down here, it's a bit big, but you can see at the moment I've got my text layer which says the word styles. I'll just show you that. I'll turn that off. So basically I've got like a colour fill layer, and then on top of that I've got a text layer, and I can move this around, and I've got a nice chunky font. Now if I want to style this text, and that's to try to make it look a bit different. Now styles are all about using effects, so if you can imagine that the effects are the clothes that you wear, and the styles are which clothes that you decide to put on. So you might have a going to work style, and that may be a different set of clothes to your going out at night style. And this is exactly the same thing. So let's just see, there is a secret area over here, and if I double click on that, then it will bring up the layer styles panel. And like we've seen before, if I go down to the FX button and click, I can do exactly the same thing, and it brings up the layer styles dialog. So let's add an effect. And here they are. Here are all the effects. Blending option, we've got bevel and emboss, stroke, inner shadow, inner glow, satin, colour overlay, gradient overlay, pattern overlay, outer glow, and drop shadow. Well, let's add a drop shadow. Now what I can do, I can just put a tick in the drop shadow section. And if you look on the layers panel now, you'll see that I've now got a little eyeball and I've got a drop shadow. But I'm still in the general blending options, and I don't know whether this is a bug. It certainly bugs me, but you normally click on that and think, oh well, I'm actually doing something on the drop shadow, but you're actually not. And a best way to do this is just to double click just to the right of the drop shadow name, and what this will do is that will put a tick in there for you, but it will also take you to the drop shadow section. Just a little tip that drove me balmy for a while. Right, now this is the drop shadow section. Now don't bother about the quality, because at the moment that's more of an advanced topic. All I want you to look at today is what's in this structure part. And here we've got a blend mode. We can change the blend mode. We've got a colour picker, so we can pick a different colour for the drop shadow. We've got an opacity of the drop shadow. We've then got this, what they call use global light, and this is where the light's coming from. So we'll see in a minute how that works. And then we've got three sliders that really define what the effect is going to be, and it's up to you just to experiment with these. I'll just move this off to the side a little bit so we can actually see, and you can actually see that there is a little bit of a drop shadow. And if I say move the angle slider, let's move it round to here, you'll see it moves to the top now. And this is, if the light was shining this way, then that's where your shadow would be, that's where your drop shadow would be. So I'll put that back to about there, and then I'll play around with the distance slider, and what that's doing is moving the drop shadow away. And it is a live effect, so if I click on this drop shadow here, I can actually move it. You can see the slider moving. I can actually move it around. So I'll position it where I think it looks good, and then I've got the spread, and with the spread I can actually spread it out further. I'll leave it somewhere like that, and then we've got the size, and that will give us like a blurriness. It softens the edge. And then I can grab it again and just move it till I get it into a position I like. Let me just move that out the way so I can see it all. Yeah, and I'm quite liking that. And you'll see that here we've got a drop shadow. Now when I'm finished and I'm happy with the things that I've got on my drop shadow, I just click OK. And that now sets that drop shadow down. Now if I want, I can actually turn this off just temporarily by clicking on that little eyeball, and that turns off the effect, or it doesn't delete it, it just turns it off its visibility. So I'll click to bring it back on again, and I can see I've now got a nice drop shadow separating it from the background. Now there's always a little doohickey arrow here, and if I click on that, what that does is it just saves me a little bit of space in my layer stack. It just closes it up. If I want to see the effect or the style, I click and it opens it up for me. Now if I want to edit this effect, then I just go and I double click on the actual name, the drop shadow, and that'll bring up the layer style dialog with all the sliders in exactly the same place, so I can play around with things again. Now you can change the colour, but I'll leave that set to black for this because black's a good drop shadow colour. And then we've got the opacity, and I can drop the opacity, so if it's 0 I've got no effect at all again, and I can bring in just a little bit of opacity right up to right in your face. Well, I don't think that works in this case, so I'm just going to drop the opacity down a little bit to say about 58-60%, something like that. Now I'll just click OK and just show you that you can delete an effect, and all we do is we just click on the effect name and drag it and drop it in the trash can, and there it was, gone. Okay, let's put that on again. So I'll double click to go into the styles panel, I'll double click on drop shadow, and then I've got my drop shadow style again. While I've got this dialog box open, I can add another effect. So let's try a bevel and emboss. So I'm going to double click on bevel and emboss, that's going to select it for me. And again, there's a lot of stuff in here, don't let it overface you, just play around with some simple bits, and really the structure is the area that's going to get you most benefit. And you can see now that I've got another effect, I've got a bevel and emboss. It's making this text look a little bit three-dimensional. And again, style, I can change to emboss, that looks a little bit better. I can play around with what they call the depth, and this is how deep the effect gets. You can see that it's just going from nothing to quite deep. Now this will change depending on which of the techniques you have. So if I try chisel soft, not much more. If I do chisel hard and then play with the size, now the size is how big is this effect, and you can see that if I move the size up, it makes a really three-dimensional effect. I quite like that. And then the soften is basically, do you want a really hard edge on here, these little edges here, or do you want to soften them a little bit? You can see it does blur it out a little bit, but I prefer this to be quite hard, and I'll take the size down a little bit to something like that. I'm quite liking that. You'll see now in the layers panel I've got my bevel and emboss effect, on top of my drop shadow. So I've now got 2 effects. Okay, let's go for broke and add a third. Let's add a stroke, and a stroke is a line that goes round the edge of something. So again, I'm going to double click just to the right of the name, and that's going to take me to the stroke dialog. And again, we've got a fairly simple one here. We've got colour, well, we've got fill type, again we've got a structure, we've got a size, and you'll see that it's defaulted to 7 pixels, and that's this white line that's going round the edge here. I can change it to make it bigger, and so it fills, or I can make it smaller. And normally a stroke is something that you just want it there just to separate it a little bit from the background. We've got a position of inside, outside or centre. Well, in this one it won't make too much difference, but if you have it on the inside, what it'll do is it'll make sure that your edges are always sharp at the corners. Again, we've got opacity. We can take the opacity of that down to 0 so we don't have a stroke, or we can take it right up, and I'm going to leave it there at white. Or should we change the colour? Yeah, let's have a go at changing the colour. So if I click here, I've got my colour picker. And if I move out into the document here, I can see that I'll try and pick something from the background. Well, my background's only blue, so I've not got a lot of choice, but I'll just click on that, and you can see now that it's actually made the style blue. It's picked out right in the middle here. That's the blue that I've made the background, and it's actually making the style blue. Well, I don't want that really, so I'm going to cancel that and leave it as white, because I think that looks quite impressive. That's quite good. I like that. And you see again over here in the layers panel, I've now got 3 effects. I've got a bevel and emboss, I've got a stroke, and I've got a drop shadow. I'll just click OK to accept that. Now what I've got here, if I have more than one effect, this is called a style. And this is something that now I've spent a good 10 minutes trying to figure this out and get it together, and I think, oh well, I might want to use this again because it looks quite cool. Okay, well, we can save out a style as a custom style. So we'll go back and open the layer styles dialog, and you'll see now at the top here of the blending options are the ones we've been playing with. We've got a bevel and emboss, a stroke, and a drop shadow. If I double click on styles, this will bring up all the preset styles that ship with Photoshop, and you can actually create your own styles now. So I'm going to click the new style dialog. It'll come up and say, what do you want to include? Well, yeah, I'll include my layer effects, I'll include my blending options, and I'll add it to the current library. And then I'll give it a name. And what should we call it? We'll call it bevel and emboss, stroke, and drop shadow. Oh, make that a T, capital T, and you make this something meaningful, so I know exactly what this style's all about. And then I click OK. And then if I just hover over the last style in this panel, you can see that that's mine, BESTDS. If I hover over some of these others, you'll see that's the drop shadow, inner shadow, bevel and emboss, which is one that I did earlier. And some of these others are ones that ship with Photoshop. So if I click on one, it will add that set of clothes or that style to the text. I'll try another one, style that one. Oh, well, that's pretty good. And that is, if you look over in the layers panel, that's a stroke and a colour overlay. I'll just try another one. That's a bevel and emboss, colour overlay, and a gradient overlay. But now if I want to get back to the style that we've just made, I just hover over this one and I click, and I'm back to the style that we've made. I'll just click OK to that. Now styles and effects are totally non-destructive. So if I decided I wanted to change this for some reason, so let's just take it up a little bit and say I want to add some more text to it, then a quick way to select all the text that you've got in a layer is to double click the little T icon here. So I'll double click that and it selects it all. And then if I want to click at the end, and then what I'll do, I'll press the return key to put a carriage return in, and I'll just do and I'll press the carriage return again, and I'll do FX. Now I can't see it all, so I'm just going to make it a bit smaller by clicking and dragging across it, and I'll drop this down to say 100 just so I can see it all. There we go, and then I press the enter key to accept that. Right, now you'll see here that it's non-destructive, because what it's done is anything extra that put in, it automatically adds it. So it automatically adds the style to whatever text I've got on that text layer. Okay, let's just move that up a little bit, and I'll make it a little bit bigger. So again, I'm going to double click to highlight it. We'll say, well, let's try 150. Yeah, that's probably nice and big, and I'll just move away from it. So I just get my move tool and move it a little bit, so I've got that in the center. I quite like that. Now let's just, for the hell of it, let's add a style to the background. We've added styles to the text, but let's add a style to the background, and here I've just got basically a color fill background layer. So I'm going to click on that to accept it, and then I'm going to make sure that my foreground and background colors are set to black and white, and I'm going to do that by first pressing the D key if they're not, and then the X key to toggle them backwards and forwards, but I want black as the foreground color. And again, I want to go back into the effects panel, so I'm going to click and select blending options, but this time what I want to do, because it's on the background, I'll say do a gradient overlay. So again, I'm going to double click on gradient overlay, and I'll leave the blend mode and the opacity as they are. I'll leave the style set to linear. You've got several different styles: radial, angle, reflected and diamond, but this time I'll have linear, and I'll select a gradient. So I'll go into the gradient color picker here, and once I've clicked on it, I get the gradient editor, and I want the one that says foreground to background, which is the second one along. The first one is foreground to background, sorry, the second one is foreground to transparent. So let's give that a go. And if we just move this out the way, you'll see now that I've got a gradient going from the top down to the bottom. So I'll click OK to that, and then what I can do is look at the opacity of this. So if I drop that off, it gets a little bit lighter. If I pull it up, so I'm going to leave it around 70%, because I like that dark area down at the bottom where it transitions from light down to dark because of the gradient that I've set. And there's this little tick box here that I might untick it. That's where I started, and that's where I finished, by adding a style to the layer. So I'll click OK, and here you can see now that we've got an effect that has been added to that background layer. Well, that's it for our little journey into effects and styles. Now, effects are things that you can put on layers or text to make it different, to dress it up basically. And a style is more than one effect together. So have a play, try and get creative with your styles and effect, and save out some of your own individual effects for yourself that you can apply to absolutely anything. Well, that's it for this video. I do hope you liked it. If you did, please give me a thumbs up or leave a comment under the video, or share it with a friend or two. Don't forget to check out the more area under the video for the link to any download files or free ebooks. And please click the subscribe button, so when I upload a new video, you are the first to know. I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.